Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with guest Nate Riggs, real estate expert. Hi, everyone. I am Lori Ann. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I am with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas, and would like to welcome you to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we welcome Nate Riggs, and he's a real estate expert. Really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate being with you guys. I'm excited to talk to you for a little bit.
Okay, so before we get into your real estate, you're a Navy veteran.
That's right.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And you worked on a helicopter and you're a rescue swimmer. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, sure. So it kind of starts probably, I guess, like I can take it all the way back, and we'll keep it brief. But growing up in Florida, living on the water, I spent my childhood years on the front of a john boat out on the river. So like swimming, I never owned floaties or anything like that. I can't remember not knowing how to swim. Up through high school, became a lifeguard. And then quickly became a head lifeguard, kind of worked at like a mini water park. We had like 7 different water slides, multiple pools. I had people under me at the age of 18. That was awesome. So I kind of naturally progressed towards that way. At the same time, always had like a passion for aviation. My dad, we were going to air shows. He's into aviation. I didn't really play flight. I didn't play like Nintendo as a kid, but we had Flight Simulator on the computer. So I was like playing Flight Simulator and things. So it seems kind of natural that those two came together. Believe it or not, at 20 years old, I got my real estate license. So I always intended to be in real estate, and we'll talk more about how we were there. But of course, that was like right at like 2007, 2008, that time period. And of course, we hit that Great Recession. So at that time, everybody's changing jobs. Everybody's changing everything, including my parents, who I still live with. So it was time. I kind of was like, there was a time where I was lifeguarding and a real estate agent at the same time. But what happened was I needed a place to go. And the natural like passion for aviation and swimming in the water, it kind of just led me. I looked at these programs and I was like, the Navy, I think at the time they were running an ad, it was accelerate your career or something like that, jumpstart your life. I don't know. And I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to join this program because it's something I have passion for and I'm good at. And I'm also like generally patriotic and stuff. And, I'll grow up a little bit and then I'll bring what I've learned back to real estate. So going through that program, I kind of shelved my real estate license because you really got to focus on that program. You figure when there's a high attrition rate, the schools, it's 2 years of schools, 5 classes, 5 different schools in 2 years. And one of them is rescue swimmer school. And of that school, you figure we class up with 24 guys, 6 guys graduate. So the whole 2-year period over the course of these 5-year schools, you're constantly weeding people out and you're getting there. And so it's a hard road there. And you figure I did a 10-year career. So that 2 years included, then another 8 years. We did you do a bunch of other jobs. We actually did anti-submarine warfare, surface warfare stuff. So I learned how to run radar, learned how to do sonar, all kinds of stuff in the helicopter. And then what I really got a passion for was being a helicopter door gunner. So we shot M240s and then we also shot 50 cal out the side. So work my way up and you can kind of grow. Some guys get more into the search and rescue. Some guys get more into the tactics and I got more into the gun. So I became a helicopter door gunner instructor from there. And then, finished out the last 3 years of my Navy career instructing the new guys that were going to be our replacement. Had I stayed and made it a career, I would have went back to the fleet with them, kind of been upper level in the shop with guys under me. But I chose to kind of get back to my first passion. It was time to spend more time with my family after some big, long deployments. When your kid's a year old and you spend 8 months away from them, that's their whole life. Right. So, and you're over there doing that and you start to rethink and you're like, man, how can I get my passion back and spend more time with family? Anyways. So, in 10 years, that was my career. Did a couple deployments, went out on the Jason Dunham, which was a great ship, maiden deployment for them. Brand new ship. I got kind of spoiled because there was a lot of older ships in the fleet at the time. So a lot of guys are complaining about deployment because they don't have hot water or they don't have air conditioning or they don't have all these things. And here I am, I go straight there. And I, at like 22 years old, the thing is, by the time I finished my school, that ship was already deployed. And so I went to meet them. And that was my first experience. And the way you do that is you don't necessarily like fly military, you fly public. So I literally got a plane ticket, left Jacksonville, went to Atlanta. You know, you're flying like Delta or United or something. From there over to Frankfurt, Germany. That's like a 12-hour flight. Then I had like a 13-hour layover in Germany. Well, I'm leaving Florida where it's very nice and hot. I'm wearing a t-shirt and I get to Germany with a 13-hour layover and there's ice on the ground. And I'm like, what in the world? 13 hours there. So now we're a day in. Then I had a 13-hour flight on like Ethiopian Airlines down to Ethiopia. So now we're up to like, I don't know. And I only brought one pair of socks. It was miserable. I didn't know, I only flew from here to Ohio my whole life growing up, like 2-hour flight. All right, no big deal. Now I'm like a day and a half in. Then you get on all these little planes and you make your way through Africa. We got to Djibouti, which is like, I just watched Black Hawk Down and it's right next to Somalia. I mean, you literally just get like dropped off on the street. It's like, figure it out, find the ship. And you're like, so that was one of my very first experiences. Got on the ship finally. And you're like, it's like the calm. It just sets in. You're out at sea. Again, that passion for the water, being on the boat, like it just came all back. And I love I love going on deployment. I love going to sea. The thing that a lot of guys complain about deployment, my biggest complaint was everybody complaining about deployment. I think it was the best part. So that's a little bit, we can talk more about it if you want, but I mean, that's kind of like the journey there, how it started. You do, as in all things, and maybe you end up doing a lot more. It can become monotonous, just like any job. It's very cool to be a door gunner. Very cool to be a rescue swimmer. It's the kind of job that you do a lot of training, a lot more training than actual, in the environment. And that is so when you get in the environment, you're very good at it and you don't have to think about it. The thing is that leads you to, you want more. Like, I want more of it, so always wanted more. But yeah, that's it.
Just a couple of things. I went to high school with a guy that was a door gunner. This was in Vietnam.
Oh, that's intense.
And at our reunion, everybody's asking about it. He goes, well, it's the best and worst experience I've ever had in my life.
Yes, the best, worst thing ever. I mean, I'm telling you, like, you're right. And my wife and I, we're pretty grounded. And I know there's a bunch of different viewpoints out there, but we still hold on to these old kind of viewpoints to some degree. And it's like, as a man, as a guy, as a dude, like I would catch myself complaining, and then I'm like, man, a lot of dudes would like to rip on this gun. You know what I mean? A lot of dudes would like to sit in the door of a helicopter and rip on a machine gun. And now that you're out and I don't get any machine gun time, I'm like, what do you mean I can't go buy a machine gun at this? What do you mean I can't have my own? Like, you know what I mean? It's harder to swallow once you get it. So,
well, I know the Navy's got excellent schools. And if I'm not mistaken, and when you're going through Navy schools, it's like, as long as you're passing, you're advancing.
Yeah.
Once you fail, you're back out into the fleet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right? The penalty. Needs of the Navy. Yeah. Yeah. So I was lucky enough, and you brought up some other programs. I'm not going to say I would have. I guess my childhood, like my comfort, like the rescue swimmer program, what it comes down to is like, how comfortable are you? Anybody can advance, anybody can gain muscle, anybody can gain, a habit. But how comfortable are you there? And like, one of the earliest things they do at rescue swimmer school like day one, people like you probably, you start with 24/6, graduate, but you probably lose 10 or 12 on day one. And you get in the pool, and the first thing they do, they take your fins, they take your mask, they rip them, your mask. Everybody thinks your mask, you just it's a mask, but there's actually like 20 pieces to this little mask, and they rip your mask and throw the pieces in the pool, and it's chaos. And you're like trying to get them. A lot of people that's where people start hyperventilating or other things, even in those moments,
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So now let's go into the real estate.
Yeah. Real estate.
So you got your license at the worst time you could have a license.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you came back, how did you assimilate back into real estate from the Navy?
Man, that's crazy. So, real estate was always a passion. You know, I grew up on part of that. Like, I grew up on Grandpa Orvis's. He had the Sportsman Marina and Lodge. So, of course, he owns real estate. He owns a lodge, and that's where the boats were. And my grandma, and then they owned other kind of commercial stuff, and you know, everything from like coin laundry and all that. And so, you know, those guys, like my Grandpa Orvis, I spent time with him. I also I didn't go to daycare. I spent time with my other grandpa, Grandpa Bill, a Korean War vet and World War II vet. So I'm very like acclimated to that kind of like person, I guess. And then also real estate. So it seemed kind of natural. I'm sorry, this thing moved again. All right, I think it's steady. I think it's stuck now. So I'm not going to touch it. So it seemed kind of natural, but I will say this is what's crazy. My It's not that it was such a terrible time to be in real estate. I think for the average like realtor, for like, there's a very low barrier of entry to get into the industry. It's not like you have to go to a career or a college, 4-year college. You can take a week-long class, but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful at it. So when you're 20 years old and when you're living in Tampa Bay, where there's like beachfront properties, you know, multi-million-dollar properties, like it's very hard to succeed as a kid with no experience in one of the toughest markets. So I took everything I learned, you know, I apply that same, like I apply that same passion that I gained. I knew, okay, when you come out of the military, you've kind of got I don't know if it's a street cred. I don't know if like people look at you different, but you know, on the outside looking in, everybody's saying, oh, this is a veteran. This is, you know, American hero. This is that. And they have this initiative and they have this. And it was like, I kind of wanted that on my resume. And those things are true, but I knew that those would end up on my resume. I know that people's complaint with people sometimes with real estate is like, oh, so they don't answer the phone, or they're scared to talk to people, or they can't negotiate, or they don't have initiative. And all those things are solved day one with the veteran thing, right? I know how to wake up in the morning. I know how to go to work 5 days a week. I know how to like, all right, I'm going to put in the late hours because I got to get it done. And so I just poured all that into it. Now, here's what is crazy. I stepped away from the Navy in January of 2020. So, so literally 2 months later, so here I've got 2 kids, wife, big old house. I'm transitioning. You know, I turned my license on 18 months ahead of time and smartly. So 18 months ahead of time, I worked both jobs. Started doing real estate. I was also instructing the kids. Now, this brought a lot of, you know, for whatever reason, you really find out some of your peers, the brotherhood, that rescue swimmer community is very tight. Some of them take it personally that you're leaving. They think that you think you're better than them. They think that, you know, you're moving on to higher things, whatever. Then some of them are your greatest advocate and they can't support you anymore. You know, so it's like you really find out, you know, they say, so oh, you find out who your friends are, right? So you really find out, like, because there's guys that love you and support you either way. And then there's guys that like they hated that. Like I could go work real estate on Saturday and still get complaints from like certain supervisors and stuff throughout the week. And I'm like, what do you care? Like it's not here. So that transition time, that 18 months, that was the biggest challenge. But I knew that I had to hit the ground running because I got a family to provide for. And then of course, 2 months later, the COVID stuff happened. So everybody stops going to work. And I'll tell you this, my broker, Ben, and me, there was probably a 2-3 month time. We had a massive office and we were the only 2 people that went. I went every single day. I never stopped going to work, never stopped calling people. And the calls went from, hey, let's talk business to like, it was as simple as like, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? How's everybody? You know, and at that time, nobody knew anything. There weren't a bunch of geopolitical and media involvement. It was very like unknown. And so it was, you know, hey, how are you guys holding up? What's your plan? What do you need? And honestly, out of that, and it was sincere. It was sincere and genuine. And it was just the need for like, for me, like I got to get out of the house. And that I think I stayed home like 1 week and then just like went nonstop. And I think our like growth in our business mostly is attributed to that. Just when you can probably be, I say probably because I don't know, I haven't been there, but you can probably be successful in whatever you want as long as you're genuine and sincere and actually care about people. I think it's like you're going to be rewarded in that.
I absolutely agree with you. It's
Totally agree.
yeah, you're not after the sale, but I mean, when people know and feel that you care about them and you have interest in them, that's a whole different
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the like, all right, if we touch on the the rescue swimmer community is like a very small community, and you're in aviation, and you, and this is so hard to put in words. We call it elite, be humble. Like I had a leader one time, and his like slogan, and we put it on koozies and everything. It said, "Be humble, be elite." It's just weird. Like, well, how are you the best, but how are you humble? How are you better than everyone else, but how do you still show like grace to everyone else? How do you like, and it was like so ingrained in us. And it's kind of that same thing. Like, how do you set a standard? How do you become better than your competition? But how do you love people at the same time? You know what I mean? How do you just want to fight for people's best interest at the same time as being better than your competitor? And I think if you literally can put those two things together, you can dominate. You can just, you can have a very successful life. And then it doesn't feel like work. It's literally you're building friendships and relationships at that point.
I saw an interview with Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's son.
Okay.
And he says, "Oh, you think I just got everything? No, my dad made me work for everything." He said he told me, "Always treat people nicely, work hard, and be humble."
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
that was his advice to him.
And that's awesome advice. I mean, I really believe it. And I'm a product of that, I think.
Yeah, that's why I said that, because I mean that made me think of that whenever you were talking about that.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I like that. That's not really out there. I'm sorry, but there's, we've had quite a few podcasts. This is the first time I've heard this. And it makes so much sense because even if you've gotten to the point where you're a master at something, I mean, if you look at it, even in that traditional, you look at the Japanese or, martial arts and such. I mean, even the masters are incredibly humble and, but they're elitists, but they're humble, and it makes a lot of sense. But it's never been brought up before. And I really appreciate that.
That's cool. Well, I'm happy that I was able to share it. Share something unique,
But when you see people that are special, I'll say, just for a general word, but they're humble, that really attracts you to them.
Yeah.
Because you always, there's something about that guy. He's just so, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And one of the things too, and I've had other real estate agents, I've had other people in the industry kind of call and it's not like I sit and dwell on it. It's not like I think on it. I wish I could tell you. I mean, I wish I could tell you I'm this entrepreneur, this guy that wakes up at 4 and he's in the journal and he's reading his scriptures or his, whatever, meditating. And then he's at the gym and then he's working. And by 11 o'clock, he's accomplished all this. And then he's setting appointments till 4 and then he's picking the kids up from school. Like, it's not all me. All right. So like, it was a struggle to get up at 7. Once you start, and there was a time I was in great shape, obviously. Then it's like, once that gets away from you a little bit, you're like, man, 7:30, 8 a.m. is looking really good right now. I could skip all that other stuff that's coming in the morning. And so, I mean, I'm not one of these guru type guys that do that, but but I have people call some other age. Well, why do you think you're so successful? Why do you think you've had such growth? And so it did force me to look. I love teaching. I teach classes at the Market Center. I teach other agents. Actually, right before we got on here, I wasn't supposed to be teaching, but then they were struggling with some stuff. And so they sent me the file and I was screen sharing the files to show it. And I was like, I got to run, we touched on that earlier, but, so, I look in and I'm like, well, what is it? And honestly, I think that's what it is. The honesty and like genuine. It's very genuine. Like I see people who are very nice to people at their face, and then behind them, then in private conversation, they don't have anything good to say or something. And I mean, that's never me. I mean, I've gotten in fights with dudes before because like I'm not going to be like almost because I'm not going to be fake. Like I don't know what you get on the surface is what it is. Right. So it goes both ways, but in a professional sense, like my customers, when you get to be an entrepreneur, when you get to be in this industry, like especially with social media this day, when you are genuine with your personality and your beliefs, your values, and what you stand for and your standard, the customers and the people who are attracted to you, I don't know that they're always like the same personality type, but for whatever reason they like you and you end up liking them, and you are like, you're more interested in delivering like the most sincere product to them, the best product that you can give them. So, I guess that's it. Like, I just try to like be myself, be an honest version of myself. And then the customers that come to me, they like, dude, now we've experimented, we've tried different things with different partners and different hires and different stuff. And we really did learn how you become like the face of your company. And sometimes I would say this, I would say sometimes when you go into hiring people, their skill is important, their work ethic is important, but just as important is their values. And if your values aren't aligned with them, you may lose customers, you may lose client base just because that client sees you as the face of the company. And then when they're working with somebody else who isn't like you, who doesn't have your values, it doesn't matter how skillful they are, they may leave, they may go shop somewhere else. They may find help somewhere else.
Well,
I think
people
it, I think it's
buy,
fair. Sorry.
they buy
That's-
from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair too that where you said, I'm not that guru that wake up at 7 o'clock, sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock. Honest to goodness, it's almost intimidating, those people who do all of that stuff. They crush it, like you said, until
Yeah.
11 is what the word is called now. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, if I can't live up to that, then am I failing?
Yeah.
So it's nice when somebody says, hey, I tried my best, but trust me,
Yeah.
I can't do it. Then that person feels a little bit more, at ease with you because you go, wow, good.
Right.
You're
And
not infallible.
a huge part is like consistency too. We do a lot on social media, and we've done a lot organically. So we don't pay for leads. We don't pay for ads. It's organic growth. It comes through relationships. It comes through, and it sounds so cheesy and like old fashion to say that, but like, or like maybe some people will label you that way, but really it does work. And it does. I mean, it's at the end of the day, like we have steady growth and we've seen big growth now that we've kind of added more, like we hired employees to kind of like take over skills. So like I can get out in the field more, get more interaction, but, it's just like, it's been steady growth. And so the problem is like, if a company, like if you're buying leads or you're buying business, if that company changes their format or if that goes away, are you going to have like a base? Are you going to like stay in business? And for us, like, we're confident, like, yeah, we are. So it's been steady and it's just been shared on social media. That kind of stuff. I kind of lost a little bit where I was going with that, but I mean, just kind of sharing our genuine self out there.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about relationships, because for about a 25-year period, relationships kind of went by the wayside. And now it appears from people we're talking to that it's starting to be more important
Yeah.
to have relationships as opposed to transactions.
Yes, it's definitely. Well, okay. So there's a big push out there, no matter what product you're doing, especially in real estate. We battle it. I think we probably battle it more than anybody else, but there's a big push to like automate the system, get rid of the personal touch, just do it online, book it online. Don't like me personally. I always want to call people. Now it's funny. I'm a little bit older than my wife. I'm like a generation, I'm 8 years older than her. And we found this out because my brother is a little bit younger than me too. But like I call people, she only texts them. Like she refuses to call people. And I'm like, just call them, just talk to them, share like your tonality, share your thought. She's like, I'll just text them. And I like, sometimes it's on the brink of like frustration about it because I don't understand. And I'm talking to my brother, and my brother is like a college youth pastor. And he's like, listen, dude, it's the generation. Like they do not call. They refuse. They literally get mad if you call them. They only will text. And then I think, how was I growing up? When I grew up, first of all, we didn't have cell phones first, but then once we got them, they were prepaid. And then it was like, if you texted a letter, your dad would come in your room and you would be in huge trouble, right? Like, because what were the fees? I don't know. It was like 10 cents a letter or something ridiculous. You know what I mean? And now, oh my gosh. So I guess we were raised like we didn't text, we called. And so it was just natural, but it's still natural for me to kind of like, I want that interaction. And in a world where they've tried to automate and like deliver everything instantly without the personal touch, human nature, like it's undeniable. There's a longing for interaction. There's a longing for it. And so if you fulfill that, if you're able to kind of meet that gap, like, not just like business wise, but just you as a person, you're going to enjoy life, better.
It's amazing. I think a company can set itself apart from everybody else in their industry if they just had somebody that would answer the phone and say, hello, this is XYZ. How can I help you?
Yeah.
Instead of punch 1 for this, punch 2 for this, and that loop, that drives me nuts. But I think that people when they call, they want to talk to a human.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And some of those are long. They've got like 13 numbers. Takes forever.
And you don't want to be waiting 30 minutes, get on, get transferred to someone else, wait another 30.
Why is the secretary always like the last button too? It's always, or press this button to talk to the front desk. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that would have been great.
So Nate, how can our listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, great. So we're on kind of the major platforms. The easiest way is Instagram at Nate Riggs Official, just like it sounds. At Nate Riggs Official on Instagram and Facebook. If you message me on that Instagram, guaranteed I will message you back. I do a lot of interactions on there because I'm a millennial, and that's the millennial app. And so we're on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. If you search Nate Riggs Official, find me. I've got a website, nateriggs.kw.com. It's really just for searching for homes. But there is a contact card on there. So if you fill out contact us, that'll ping too. But those are probably the easiest ways, to be honest.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much for this. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
I'm glad I could deliver. I'm glad it was a good time. Been looking forward to it. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for being our guest. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you too.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.